Cool.
Brother man,
What's happening?
thank you for being on the Itty Report.
Absolutely.
We got our new, very complicated OSB bot or OBS, whatever the hell kind
Yeah,
of tabs
yeah,
these little friggin'
sometimes
things. But took us about, what, 4 hours to get them started?
Sometimes it's quite common for things not to go perfectly when you got a new thing
That's correct.
started up.
That's correct.
But
Well,
it looked like it's going now.
yeah. Well, you are officially my second guest for the Itty Report podcast.
Cool.
And just want to introduce my great friend Herb Coleman. I think what year did we meet? 2010,
10 maybe. 2010, maybe 11.
Maybe I think 2011.
Yeah.
So we got about 13 years, 13,
Yeah.
14 years.
Yeah.
That's pretty good to know.
Yep.
Been there for a lot of parties, and
Yep,
you know, I just
sure did.
I've had so much fun with you, man. It's just like nothing but good memories. So everything's going to change for me after this. So I really, really was looking forward to celebrating my beers with you.
Yep.
You know what I mean?
Absolutely.
I couldn't let that one go. So,
Yep, yep.
But anyways, man, so I'd like to just, we're just going to shoot the shit, talk about whatever we're going to talk
Sounds
about.
good.
Bring up anything that you want to bring up.
Sounds good.
Cheers, my brother.
Yep. Couldn't be better. Now it's settling down.
Yeah, it's getting better now.
Yeah.
All right. So, where'd you grow up?
I grew up in Roswell, Georgia.
Okay.
And then when I turned 21, I guess it was probably time for me to fly the coop.
Okay.
And my dad took me to see a house selling at auction. And for the old owner, he built the lake in the front yard.
Mm-hmm.
He built the lake in 63.
Okay.
And in 78, he took me to the auction one morning. And it was raining, cold, borderline ice storm morning. And I went back to the truck. And I was sitting in the truck in the heat. And he comes back out and gets in the truck. I still got the auction going. And I guess they gave him the high sign, and he pulls off his cap and pops me with it and says, "Guess what? We bought a house." And I sit up, and I know what that means. That means I bought a house, and he was going to make me make the payments. And so I recruited some roommates, and it took us 2 months to clean out that house. And I had the use of his dump truck to haul garbage to the landfill. And we got it livable, and I lived there for 10 years.
Now, did you have anything to do with business with your dad?
No, he sold out in 74 when I was a junior in high school.
What did he do?
He did grading pipeline, or grading too.
But that's okay. So, but you essentially kind of learned the trade from him.
Yeah,
right?
yeah, I learned how to move dirt from him.
Okay. But you never worked with him, or did you?
Yeah, I worked with him growing up, but we always butted heads.
Oh, yeah.
And later I figured out, when I went into business for myself, I figured out he was right the whole time.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So you're young and stubborn, and I want to do it my way.
And I was an idiot, yeah.
Well, it's just like you figure it
Period.
out.
I was just an idiot.
Yeah. Well, we can do that.
And Dad was right.
But you've done a lot of different things. I mean, when you were younger, you were doing motocross.
Yeah, I did motocross.
When did you start that?
And I started when I was 10. My parents bought me a lawnmower motor mini bike.
Okay.
And then when I got about 12 or 13, I wanted to go to the races with my buddy Ken Cox.
Okay.
Well, my dad took me to the races, and him and Ken's dad were big buddies. And we got to the races, and everybody else had like a Yamaha Mini Enduro.
Okay.
And I had that Cyclops mini bike with the Briggs & Stratton motor. I don't remember how I finished, but I do remember getting a trophy because I wanted to ride with my buddy Ken.
Keep in mind, when you say trophy, that wasn't for just participation.
No, it was not.
You're talking podium.
You had to finish top 5.
Okay. There you
And
go.
I probably finished 5th. And all I remember is that track was so rough on that little mini bike with no suspension. But as long as I could keep my buddy Ken in sight, he was not going to shake me. But all of those bikes had gears and different things, like a mini trail,
Right.
65 or 50 or whatever it was. But and then later on, I wound up with a Honda when I was 14, a Honda 70. And it had gears, but I went to the races again with my buddy Ken. Mm-hmm. And he had a full-size bike at this point. But I wanted to ride his class, and the people that were throwing the race let me ride my mini bike. And again, I got a trophy.
So your first event, and then all the way through 14, you're still riding tiny bikes.
And I was still on the lawnmower motor mini bike.
Wow.
And then once I got the bike with gears, but
it was a wrap.
It was still a mini bike. But when I went to that race, I wanted to ride with Ken, and he was on a full-size bike. But I still got a trophy.
Well, how old were you when you first got your real ride?
When I was 16 is when I got a full-size bike.
Now, would you consider that? Did you turn pro at 16?
No, I wasn't eligible for pro. I could have been signed up at any point.
Okay.
But I probably wasn't fast enough. And then in '78, they came out with a red motor Honda CR250, and I finished 9th in the state that year. But later on, about a month and a half later, I broke my back.
Yeah, I was going to get to
and
that.
I had the opportunity to lay in bed for a whole year and reflect. And it turns out I was not going to be the world motocross champion.
How old were you then?
I was 18.
You were 18. And
Yep.
and what did you do? Did you just straight up just come off a freaking masso jump and just catch it wrong?
We were riding behind my parents' house and practicing, and some idiot went backwards on the track, and I met him in a jump. Yep.
Oh, so this wasn't even your fault.
Oh no, it was not.
Wow.
And the motorcycle, I would imagine, would run over 70 miles an hour. So however fast he was going,
You guys met over 100 miles
well, he
per hour.
was in the air, and I was coming up the face of the jump, and he hit me right in the chest, and it broke my back, broke my L4 vertebrae.
And you took a nice leisurely walk home, right?
Well, my buddy Keith held up my upper half. He put one hand on my chest and one on my back and held up my upper half. And I made it back to my parents' house, which was about a half a mile walk. And my dad put me in the back seat of their car and drove me to the hospital. And when I got to the hospital, they didn't even keep me. I didn't have insurance. So they said, here, they gave me a backboard that I was strapped to. And when I got home, my dad got a couple of the neighbors to come over and carry me and put me in my bed. Then we didn't have air conditioning at that time. And then the next day, this was in probably July of the year, and it was hot. And next day, my dad called some electricians, and they came in and installed an air conditioner in my room. And that air conditioner cooled the whole house. We opened some doors in the circulation.
I bet you that possibly almost even saved you.
Probably did.
Because how long were you laid up where you just couldn't do anything?
I couldn't go to the bathroom for about 3 months.
You couldn't even stand up?
No. My mother had to bring me the bedpan and clean me up.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's 3 months, and then after 3 months, you could barely move.
I could barely get to the bathroom.
But then after that, you couldn't really do anything for a full
going
year?
to the bathroom was not a daily thing after that. It was, maybe I went once, and mom or dad had to help me back to the bed both ways.
Wow.
And maybe a week or two later, I tried it again and had a little more success.
Well, I would imagine, first off, your house wasn't set up for you to be able to do that.
Yeah.
But at the same token, when did it start to ease off to where you felt like you were going to recover? Like 6 months?
Probably 6 months.
6 months?
I was in traction also, that they had a contraption that hooked to the top of the mattress. Mm-hmm. They went in my armpits as hooks.
Right.
To hold up my upper half, and I had a weight belt. in a pulley
To pull you down.
to pull my hips down. And my dad made a box, so it was like I was laying in bed. Like before he made the box, they had one of the dining room chairs that Dad cut the back of it off because it was kind of the right height, but he cut me and made a box and then put padding on it.
You know, when you talk about like somebody breaks their back, you know, that's you should have been a quadriplegic.
Yeah, the doctor said that I would defied all odds. He said if I wasn't in such good physical shape,
Right.
he said actually I should be dead.
Yeah. But that's what I was saying. It's probably small things like the air conditioner made it tolerable.
The air conditioner made it tolerable, and
Yeah.
I'd
you were
only
already
been
in so much pain. How much pain were you in?
I don't remember much of it and I shook.
Because you were passed out practically.
Well, I was white knuckled.
All right.
In pain, and I hurt so bad, pain meds did not work.
Right.
And there's probably a couple of months I almost don't remember anything, but it was
Probably because you just completely
of the
blocked
pain,
it out.
because of the pain,
Yeah.
you know. And after that, I probably didn't ride until '84.
How many years do you think that passed?
That was in '79.
So about 5 years.
So about 5 years, I didn't ride at all, and I'd gone in business.
I would imagine you were a little gun shy.
Well, it wasn't so much me; it was my parents they were going to disown me if I ever
Right.
rode again. And in the meantime,
Yeah, but that would not.
I got
really,
going.
In the grand scheme of things, though, that wouldn't be very fair to you because you didn't cause the accident. Somebody else is the problem.
irrelevant.
I know, but still, yeah, they did have to endure cleaning your bed.
Well, I
for a
think
year.
yeah, there's that, and it's all the discussions of God giving me another chance, and me defying all odds. And anyway, in the meantime, I did some job hopping. I was one of those guys that calls you about your copy machine all the way through college. Mm-hmm. And I went to Southern Tech and I studied civil engineering. And I was a junior when I broke my back. And it didn't occur to me till later. And I didn't finish to get my degree. I liked a year and a quarter.
Okay.
And it didn't occur to me until fairly recently that's probably why I didn't finish. You know, I went back for a couple of quarters, but it was different.
That's your field now, is civil engineering, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah,
so
I'm a contractor, and it goes hand in hand
Right.
with what I'm doing. But I don't think it would have made any difference because what they teach you in school is not the knowledge that I need here.
Oh, yeah, that's almost a given in almost every
It's a
single
piece
subject.
of paper.
Yeah.
If I had gone and got a job with a surveyor and engineer, maybe that would have helped me. But
Well, kind of the funny thing of how you and I met was I was trying to create something that was a direct source. Mm-hmm. Don't go to a school to learn from somebody that graduated the program that never went out in the real world and did
never
anything.
went out in the real world
Go
and did it.
get an education from an actual musician, studio engineer, and
Right.
producer,
Right.
one-on-one.
Right.
You're never going to get that anywhere.
No.
Unless you go to that actual producer and they have the
That is
time to even
correct.
care to
That
do
is
something
correct.
like that. So those are unique in just how just our story, how we even are. Beginning.
When we met,
Yeah.
I showed up I bought a little interface, a little 2-channel interface for my laptop, so I could record live shows, so I could record our gigs. And my roommate at the time, I had to go online to activate the little interface, and it came with Cubase software. And it kept sending me messages, come to one of our seminars at Club Cubase.
That's right. It was Club Cubase.
It
They
was.
used to send out a newsletter, and they said we're having an event over
Yep.
at the Art Institute.
And then they had at the Art Institute.
That was at the Art Institute.
And my other experience at the Art Institute, I dated a young lady that was a student at the Art Institute. And when it said Art Institute, and that was in Sandy Springs, 10 miles from my house, I said, I'm there. And I was single at the time, and I showed up with my cooler, in your seminar, if you remember, you and that other guy that was doing the seminar,
Yep.
and I sat on the front row, and I hogged the seminar. And later we went out, and we went to some bar, and we saw the sun come up.
Yep. Pretty
And
much. I
we
think it was the
kind of
ale
been
house right
joined
next
at
to
the
it.
hip. Yeah, I think it was.
Yep. That's
And we
exactly
joined
right.
at the hip ever since.
Yeah, pretty much, man. Yeah, what it ended up being was I'm failing to remember the dude's name. It's been so long since I've seen him. But he was the guy that was the rep for Steinberg.
Yeah, Steinberg, Yamaha,
yeah,
owned by
exactly.
Yamaha. Both
so-
of y'all were.
Well, I didn't work with him in an official capacity.
Uh-huh.
He met me for, I can't even remember how I met him or something. I think I did something at Ken Stanton or something, and I may have met him as a rep. Actually, I might have met him in Florida when I was on a trip down there. He might have been a rep down there, and I talked to him. He says, yeah, come do a thing. And I just met with him. And I told him what I was trying to do, and I was trying to promote Chromatic Music, the program.
Yep, I remember that.
And so I basically said, hey, would you mind me just doing a free clinic for you through Steinberg? You can represent it any way you want, but it's like how to be a one-man band. You know, so
That's right. That's the name of the the seminar was.
Yeah.
Was
How to be a one-man band.
Cubase one-man band.
Yeah, exactly. So I showed up with I think it was a iMac at the time, a little keyboard, guitar and a bass, and I think that's it.
Yep.
And then I just basically did everything else. So I kind of did the drum programming.
Yeah,
and I laid down
you
a
did
bass,
a whole
and then I did
song
a
by
little
yourself
piano thing.
at the seminar.
Yeah.
And I was hooked.
Yeah, and it was just basically that was just a kind of a meet and greet, to see, could I find people that would be interested in doing this. Now, it didn't start that way because it wasn't so much you wanted to learn about the recording stuff, but when we got to know each other, then you said, hey, I got my girlfriend Diana, she needs to record the song for her grandmother's funeral.
That's right.
And it was
forgot
Amazing
about
Grace.
that.
And I had told him, I said, yeah, well, come on by. And I know she was nervous as hell. And I put her in the booth, and she was just singing, and it was all a cappella.
Yeah,
It was crazy. It was all a cappella, and it was like one of those things where it was like, okay, don't worry.
Well, she's
I can
always been.
fix it in post.
She's got an opera degree, and she graduated as an opera singer, and now
That
she
I
has
didn't know.
made it full circle. And we were in the Reckless Heart band recently together,
Yep.
until its demise. And we're trying to get another band started now called New Romance, Neuromance.
Nice.
It's like crazy about rock and roll. Let's get crazy. Is the tagline.
Can I ask you a question?
Yes, sir.
How many bands have you been in?
I'm going to say 25.
Wow.
Yep, that's my first one.
What's the longest band you were ever in?
The Fourplay band, Fourplay.
Okay.
My buddy Nick was the drummer. Lynn, his wife.
Is it Nick the one I remember?
Yes, it is.
Okay,
Nick
okay.
Orvis, Nick the Clock.
Yeah.
Yeah, the good,
But
really good drummer.
He was the one that played on, what was the song? The Slower Jam.
Yeah, he played on
Guns
several of the Smoking Gun songs, I believe. When the other drummers were struggling and having trouble on tape, on recording. But he played on some of it, and he played with us.
Jeff was
out.
the legendary drummer, right?
Yeah, he was the first drummer.
But I'm saying he was the one that gave you guys.
Yeah, he was.
Yeah.
Yeah. Poor Jeff.
But
Here's the Jeff, bless his heart.
Here's the Jeff.
Yep.
And so I wanted to give you a gift. Speaking of Jeff, this is
Oh, I've got to send this. Check this out. That's what Jeff said he was going to give us. A bag of dicks. I'm sending this to the rest of the Guns.
nice.
Yep. We lasted about 3 years in the Guns, and we were getting going, and we found a management company. Georgia Country is the name of them, and they're still around, and they're really big now.
Okay.
And they said, well, wait a minute. There's already 2 or 3 other Smoking Guns bands. You're going to have to change your name. And they suggested, well, do like your lead singer is Thomas Abbott, So do Thomas Abbott and the Smoking Gun. So, we had to decide like that day.
Right.
And so that's what we did.
I think I got
Because we already had
of that.
Yeah. We already kind of had a following with the Smoking Guns. And we just kind of added that to it. And the crowd just kept coming.
Nice.
And we wound up with a song with 13 original songs, and you mastered the album.
Well, the first one we did the first experience was Diana.
It is.
That was a Diana thing. But the next one, the thing that really came after that was when I remastered the Smoking Guns track.
Yeah, we had the tracks at another place before I knew you.
But that was only one track, and I think it was called the Smoking Gun, wasn't it?
Yeah, that was a song, the Smoking Gun, and that was our kind of our title track.
Right. That was a promotional track almost.
Yeah, it was.
So what I did is I didn't really remaster it. Is I kind of did a couple of things to it where I reamped a lot of parts.
Right.
So I sent the original tracks through some softwares, through some amplifiers, and kind of recaptured them because they were really weak on the original recording. But after you guys heard the track, you're so blown away from the original one.
Yeah.
We're like, all right, we want to do an album.
Yep, we want to do an album, and we didn't have enough songs, and the lightning was striking so much with the magnetism in the studio that we wound up with 3 or 4 other songs that we didn't have before we went in the studio.
Well, the first thing that I ever do, especially if we do, matter of fact, it doesn't matter if it's a first track, second track, third track, or fourth track song. Every time I sit down, I get organized with the folders and the names and all that kind of stuff. And so from there, I sat down with Thomas Abbott and I said, well, let's go ahead and figure this album out so we know what the cost is going to be, how many hours it's going to be, so we can actually do this. So the first day was just you, me, and I think Thomas just sitting down. And one of the funniest things I had ever experienced is I know Southern draws. But Thomas is the real deal. He's out in the forest.
Yes,
you know what I mean?
is.
He's out in the forest. And when I met him, he was so Southern. And I just started saying, okay, let's get the track list. He's like, okay. And he went through a couple of them, and they were pretty basic, and this, that, and the other, like rodeo song or whatever. That's pretty easy. Yeah. But he was like, Chicken Heel. And I was like, I had to write it down.
Yeah.
But I heard heel. Heel?
No.
He's like, no, like a heel. I'm like, chicken heel? A heel? And he's like, no, like you run up a hill. And I'm like, you mean hill? No, he's like, no, that's what I said, heel.
Yep.
And that's when I started getting how, like, okay, we are definitely from different zip codes. You know what I mean? We're definitely from different zip codes. Yeah. But we got along so fast, and we had so much fun.
Yes, we did.
And that was, I remember for you, you told me, like, you just could not wait to get to the studio.
Yeah. Right.
You know what I mean? Just to be that
opened a whole new door for me. Mm-hmm. You know, I've always loved playing music and playing out, and I'm just rehearsing, but going to the studio and hearing yourself back, it was magic, and it put me into a different frame of mind and a different part of my life that enhanced my life so much.
Yeah, I mean, I never had a session that good. I mean, it was that much fun.
Yes, it was.
It actually, to one point, I got a little irritated one time, kind of got off the rings, because Abbott was in his booth. He was trying to sing. And we had so many people. I think we had the entire band over. I think we even had a couple extras.
Yes, we did.
So we had like 7, 8 people over. And I remember the night ending so funny. This is a great story. You'll love this story. You were telling the story of the apocalypse, and you were talking about the gift she left you in the bathroom.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
And you had your arms up like the T-Rex, you know what I mean, explaining this story, and volume just kept getting louder, and everybody's dying of laughter, and we're all on the back porch, and it could have been 11:30,
and I was scarred for life after that experience.
But the greatest part about it is, like, Adriana was right above the bedroom right there, and the door, I think the window was even cracked because it was summer or something like that. And I was like, oh God, she's gonna kill me, you know? And she's like, she couldn't stop laughing just hearing you tell that story. And she was just in the bed rolling for hours, just hours. She was like, I love that guy. Adriana loves you and adores you like you have no
make a
idea.
song out of it, but where am I gonna play it out?
Oh, no, you should just YouTube it and just get it out.
You
there
just
and
YouTube it, just see
YouTube
what
it.
happens.
Just let it roll. But no, it was that was a crazy time. The best parts about it was, I mean, even to the story, right? Like before the recording even started, you know what I mean? Jeff sent that email, and you were on your phone, you know what I mean? And you was like, so he says, I'm out. You guys can eat a bag of dicks. And Thomas Abbott, I remember he was rolling over.
A bag of dicks!
A bag of dicks.
The whole room exploded.
He was red in the face to the no end. And the best part is he was like, I never heard that one before. I was like, a bag of dicks.
And to this day, whenever his name comes up, it's Bag of Dicks Jeff.
That's it.
That's
is. Right. I mean, that's a consolation prize for you right there.
It
Jeff.
sure is. Well, I'm taking a picture of that and send it to the rest of the band.
Well, they'll love that.
Yeah, I just played. I think it's been 12 years since we broke up.
Right.
And but I still play every Halloween over there. And every Halloween we don't practice.
Yeah.
And it sounds just as good as it did on the album.
Well, let me ask you a question. Is the original person that destroyed the band gone?
Yeah.
He was the toxic one.
Oh, yeah, he was the toxic one. He poisoned everybody in the band.
And that's such an unfortunate part. It's not really to try to dig up, but it's to bring character to the story. Is that when we did this recording, I was just a broke ass musician basically.
Mm-hmm.
I was paycheck to paycheck to paycheck. So this was a big deal for me.
Right.
And I think the original idea of the whole thing was going to be like $5,500.
Yeah, something like that.
And I said, if we go over,
yeah,
it was going to be like, I think it was like $60 an hour or something like that.
Yeah.
And it ended up being, I think, $12,000.
It was $12,000.
It was $12,000. So it was a big deal. Now, the average studio recording, if you go into a major studio, is $12,000 a song.
At least,
you know what I mean? Just to get the engineer and the time and all
Right.
that stuff like that. So usually booking those things out requires a record company.
Yeah.
But we'll take a break after the story and we'll refill. But the thing that was amazing was after we had done the master and it was finished. Remember playing it over at your house?
Yep.
And then we uploaded it to the Dropbox.
Yep.
And we had that great celebration. And the next morning, you told me they came over and collected their stuff.
Yeah.
What did they say to you?
Thomas said, I'm quitting the band, and Danny was nowhere to be found. He had poisoned everybody.
Was it just him that showed up, or was it everybody?
No. It was him and Steve. And our drummer du jour, we had to go through several drummers there at the end after Jeff exited.
Well,
it was Thomas and Steve, and he brought the trailer and dropped off my equipment and whatever equipment I had at the old house. We loaded it up and we parted as friends. I wasn't happy. Nobody was happy. But
did you even ask why?
Not really. We kind of all knew that there
Did you
were.
know that this was coming?
No, I did not.
So when he just showed up and you were like, "Hey, what's going on?" and he's like, "Yeah, I'm quitting the band." You're like,
"Yeah."
Why?
We kind of all knew because it seemed like that when the lead guitar player, he was an outsider and he came in late, and he was, to lack of a better word, was a legend in his own mind.
Right.
And
I picked that up about that.
Yeah.
He thought he was way better than he actually was.
Right. And he tried to convince Thomas to go with him to Nashville, and they were trying to pick up pieces of a band. They tried to start a band. They lasted about 2 or 3 months.
Right.
And
well, if you start off with toxic,
yeah,
you're gonna get sick real quick.
But apparently he was a poisonous person, and I don't know what happened
It
to
just
him.
shouldn't have even gone. I mean, we didn't even have a rap party.
Yeah.
We didn't even have a release
Sure
party.
didn't. Sure didn't.
That was one of the things I was looking forward to
Yeah,
because it's like to finish an album,
Yeah,
to
if we-
have
if-
such a great
if we-
experience.
well,
doing
that
it,
was
and
about
we
the
didn't even
time,
get a
and-
chance to
and
actually do that.
I guess we just didn't follow up with Georgia Country. If we had done like what the Georgia Satellites did, because they were the Satellites before they had to change to the Georgia Satellites, and they would already broken up when they came out with their album.
Right.
Yeah, but they had already marketed it to their record company, and the record company got them back together.
Yeah, but see, what I don't understand is I don't understand how they first off, they don't know anything about law.
Right.
That recording was 100% yours.
Yeah.
You
Well,
paid for it. You funded it.
Yeah.
I owned the audio rights to it, but
Right.
you owned the actual property.
Right.
You know what I mean? Even though their music was on it.
Well, Thomas
own
wrote
the
the
master.
songs, and I would never do that because that's not me.
No, I know. And I mean, to further the character, I mean, I don't remember what the balance was, but it was substantial on the rest of it. It could have been $5,000 or something like
Yeah,
that. But
it was.
What did you do?
I paid it.
You paid it, but how?
I just had to dig deep. I had to go. I was in the grading and pipeline business. I had to go lay some more pipe because I gave you my word.
No, I know. And that's
If you don't have your word, you don't have anything.
well, that was one of the things that we both shared, and we figured that out really quickly about each other. If I owed you a penny, I would drive across the country to
Correct.
give it to you. You know what I mean? Because you
Correct.
and I, we owe nobody nothing.
Correct.
So, and it's not necessarily because we want people owing us either.
No.
I don't like it when there's an outstanding balance. I
No.
know you don't like it
No,
when there's an
I do not
outstanding
like it
balance.
either.
So it's kind of like, no, I don't want to play this game
Right.
and go that direction. So, but to your character, I mean, you basically did what you had to do
Right.
to save my ass.
Well, I gave you my word on behalf of the band.
I know, but you made good on that after they kicked you out. That's mind blowing.
Well,
I've had people that never paid me before, during, and after.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
I know,
That-
but
and that was probably
I was determined
everybody.
to never be one of those people.
I think there was. I don't know if I've actually ever worked with any artist that actually realistically. No, that's not true. Jerry Williford paid me a little bit, and then Robert Mason bought me a few things. He was the first guest on my podcast, but we did recordings back in 2005 or something like that. Boy, I tell you what, the studio technology then, what I was using back then compared to what I have now is so ridiculous.
Yeah.
It was just it was mind blowing.
But that album that you did for us still sounds wonderful.
Oh, I know. No. I'm talking about when I was in 2005 versus in 2012 when we did
Yeah.
it. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? It was
Oh,
like
yeah.
the technology shifted so much. I was
Sure.
full into like recording.
Sure.
Because back then I just had like little 8 tracks and 4 tracks,
Right.
like those kind of
Right.
things. So
Right.
it was just a massive difference. But yeah, the Guns studio album. I mean, the last thing I'll say about that session was the drumming was so much fun as far as the drama.
Yeah.
Because
It was.
we had the drummer, was it Jeff was the first one?
Jeff was the first one.
He laid down how many tracks? And he
don't
did it pretty
remember.
efficiently.
Yeah, he did all
Because
right.
he knew the tracks.
Yeah, he knew the tracks.
But I don't think he did them all. And
Well,
then who was the other guy, the long
was
ponytail?
Greg.
Greg.
That was Greg.
Greg came in and not to square up in bad blood, it's just the first thing he did was crack open a 24 pack and started raging.
Yeah.
You know what
yeah.
I mean? And it's like, I didn't even get the mics mic'd up yet. You know
Yeah.
what I mean? And it's like, dude, you're on beer 9?
Yeah.
You know what I mean? I was like, I don't know how you're going to be able to do this. And because drumming requires muscle fun. You
It
can do
does.
more on a bass and you can do more on a guitar, kind of sloppy and just
Yeah,
get it. But
yeah.
you got to be doing everything when you're, you know?
Yeah.
So I don't know how you could have done that, but his meter was so bad. He just sped up and slowed down, sped up and slowed down. And he was playing so many Van Halen fills. It's
Yeah.
like, dude, this is a country western song, buddy. You know,
It
Take
is.
down
It
a few-
is. It is.
Take it down a few levels and stuff like that. But unfortunately, we couldn't. At the end, it was just we couldn't use it.
Yeah, it was too much. We couldn't modify him enough to use all of his stuff.
I tried.
I know you did.
I tried.
I was there with you.
I tried to find one track that at least he could be on, and it was. By the time we got to the end of the session, it was like he was so blotto
Yeah.
that there was nothing coming out of him. You know, he was just starting and stopping, and it was just like I was like, I think you forgot the song.
Yep.
You know, at that point.
Yep.
But that was that. But then you said it was Nick.
Nick.
Yeah,
we got
so
Nick.
when Nick came,
Nick came in,
he was a super.
He was good.
He was a gentleman. He was right on time, perfect. Knew the song. Fills were appropriate.
Yeah.
Great tempo. Great dynamics. That's what I liked about him a lot.
Right.
And yeah, I think it was really at the end. I think it was just Nick and Jeff that was on the recordings for his drums, right?
Right.
And then I did a track with you.
Right. You did.
That I think I programmed the drums, didn't I?
Yeah, you did.
Yeah, I did.
You did. Well, we were running out of time and out of budget.
What song was that?
I can't remember which.
It was the last track on the album.
it was
I
the
remember
last
that.
track.
I did a solo on it and everything like that. I remember it was a killer song.
Killer song.
But yeah, like Rodeo Song, and there was some other ones out there that I listened to, and I'm just like, wow, this is just good music.
Yeah.
It's just good.
Sure
music.
was. We had some good songs.
But yeah. But and I even like Chicken Hill.
Yeah.
You know, Chicken Hill.
Chicken Hill.
But yeah, it was great. I mean, you wouldn't believe you. The funny thing about when you're an engineer, what's really odd, is that when you get into something and you listen to it for 6 months straight, it doesn't matter how good or bad the songs are, they get stuck in your head.
They do.
They just, you know what I mean?
They do.
Just get stuck in your head. When you listen to them over and over, you can't not hear them.
Yeah.
They just echo and echo and echo. And so I don't think I stopped hearing that song or that album in my head because it sounded like Dark Side of the Moon. It was like one track because it blended into the next
together.
one. Yeah, they just
Sure did.
You knew what was coming after it.
Yeah.
And I think we spent a lot of time ordering the album, didn't we?
Yeah.
Like we knew which way to place it.
Right.
And so I think that was a big part of that. But now that was an absolutely killer album, man.
I thought it was. I've still got one copy that's still shrink wrapped.
Oh yeah?
Sure do.
I
gotta find it.
You should frame it.
Yeah, I should.
You should absolutely frame it. We'll sign it and put a date on it.
Yeah,
and all that stuff like that. That's a good thing to have.
Yeah, I meant to run some copies and take them to the guys on Halloween, but of course I forgot to.
Yeah.
But all I got to do is run copies because I got that duplicator.
Well, like I said, I've got the original albums, or so if you ever wanted to put it out there, and you could always put it on Spotify.
That's a good idea.
You can just put it
Why
on.
don't we do that?
Yeah, we should do that. There's no reason not to release it. It's your music. It's yours to be proud of. If you want somebody to hear it, they can just hear it. You don't have to give them a
Let's
CD.
do that.
CDs are actually more inconvenient because they'd have to take it, put it on a CD player that they don't have anymore. They'd have to rip it, and then they'd have to transfer it.
Let's work on it here in the next couple months in this spring when the weather breaks.
Okay.
Let's have the announcement and put it on Spotify, and let's have the official album opening that we never had.
There you go.
And we'll have it at my place up on the hill.
Nice.
And we'll have a jam up on my mountain, and we'll have a big bonfire.
I'll be there to film it.
And what we'll do, maybe that'll provide the spark to get the whole thing going again.
Well, it's like a 10-year reunion.
It would be, let's call it the 10-year reunion.
There you go.
And it'll be like the 10-year reunion jam.
Wasn't I filming some of this stuff too? I had to have gotten some film from that.
Yeah, and
I think the reason I just never
video
touched it
Mike
again.
Phil did. I think we've got 17 videos on YouTube that he did for us at various.
But at my
gigs,
studio.
Some of them were at your studio.
Yeah.
But he spliced it, and he was a master editor, and it wound up in various other the videos of the songs. Because I believe we got a video for every song.
I think you do.
Yeah, and we probably got some videos for some cover songs too.
Okay.
I know we've got one of that Toby Keith song on Red Solo Cup. We got a video of that when we were the house band at Players in Marietta.
I was thinking of Guns. I was like, no, I wasn't a part of it.
No, we did. Well, it's because it was a cover song.
Right.
We didn't bring covers into the studio.
Okay.
But
That was interesting.
Yeah.
Well, let's take 5.
Let's do it.
And then we'll do a part 2.
All right. Sounds great.
All right, what do we got here?
We got some dries on the mugs.
That'll do it.
It should.
Oh, that glass is as cold as it gets.
That's cold.
Burst.
Now,
That's right. It's much
I love head, but not on my beer.
Well, I think it's partly because the glass is so damn cold.
Maybe.
Ducati's actually coming out with like a KTM style. Yeah, it's just
It's $20,000.
right. Well, every one of these things is
Whatever.
20,000, and they
What's that
start.
got to do with anything?
Yeah, exactly.
Antonio Carioli. I won a championship with it.
Yep.
I think it's a world championship.
No, it's the first time Ducati won in a long time and stuff like that. So
Yeah. Well, on their first dirt bike, they win right out of the box.
right.
Yeah. Lord have mercy.
But yeah, I mean these bikes. This is just one of the scariest bikes I've ever rode. It's a hard bike to ride, and honestly, it's because the 1199s and the V2s specifically have so much power torque.
Well, this is a V2, isn't it?
This is a V2, but they make a V4, and it feels more like an inline four.
No, it's got to be a V2.
Well, but here's the thing. The problem is my hands, especially from here, from working the brakes and stuff like that, but it's just the vibration from this bike. My hand goes numb every six minutes. So much so that I have to pull the clutch in on highway speeds and actually bang my hand to get the feeling
You
back.
just got to ride a lot. You got to ride more.
I used to ride only motorcycles for 5 years in Miami's on Suzuki's, and they never did that. I could ride for 30, 40 minutes and never have that happen.
Then don't ride over 6 minutes.
Yeah, that's pretty much that. This is my bacon mobile. This is I take my backpack and I buy bacon, and then all of that is just right there.
Diana, oh God.
Oh yeah.
Here's what we're doing. We're sending Diana a picture.
There you go. Oh, I got to get you next
We're
to the bike.
catching the bike in the picture.
Good, stand next to the bike. That's a good one.
Yeah.
That's good. I still wish you
I'm
could.
gonna catch the music equipment and the bike. Absolutely. Oh, she's gonna be tore up.
Well, she's been down here, right?
Yeah, but this place evolves.
Well, it's this right here.
That too.
Beers and farts authorized hot.
Yeah, but that is true.
No, so I have my buddy. He created this logo called the Sand Sharks and stuff like that. And this is our 5x5 is our kind of a thing. But I made him a jacket, which you'll love this. So I made him a jacket. He has his own. I have my own, and we put the embroidery on the back.
Oh, nice.
Isn't that beautiful? Jackets? And then actually, it's a great company. They're pretty local. And then we check this out.
Nice.
I got my little water night down there, stuff like that. So, but these are.
Here's what just occurred to me when we were talking about bands and stuff a minute ago.
Right.
I got the logo for New Romance.
Okay.
I've got to have satin jackets now.
Oh well, I know the people to do it. They did a great job.
Yeah, I see that.
They did a great job. I mean, we've got so many different versions of all these things.
Correct.
But
starting New Romance a little backwards. Get all the logos and stuff first. And that'll help me recruit players. I'm trying to get the old New Romance band and Patrick Coletta. He expressed a big old interest in playing, but I hope I hadn't missed the boat because he's pro and everybody knows him and he's already playing out all over town.
Indeed. Mm-hmm. Indeed.
But what I'm thinking I'll do, Diana and Catherine are such good singers, especially together, that I'm thinking once he hears them sing, then he'll be in.
Got your Bag of Dicks collection.
Bag of Dicks collection.
You know how long I've been waiting to give you that?
Oh man, that's so.
I think I bought. I can't even remember
Well,
when I bought it. I think I bought that in September. Just waiting for you to get over here.
What we're gonna do is we're gonna not forget and not take a back seat. We're gonna revive the guns, and we're gonna gas the fire.
There it is.
And we're gonna have a new song. And what we'll do is we do like you did with that one song. You played all the tracks when we ran out of time.
Oh, I'll do that.
We'll do that, and we'll collaborate the lyrics, and we'll get the girls to sing. We'll sing, and let you do whatever the magic you do, and we'll send it to them all at the same time. And if that don't gas the fire, there's nothing will.
There it is.
And by that time, I should have all my dirt moved up at the hump.
Oh, that's right. We're gonna have to revisit that one.
And it'll be the jam album dropping party that we never had, that we never followed through enough. And that's what we'll do.
Well, here's to that, my friend.
And we might relabel the album, instead of Half Baked and Southern Fried, we might call it Second Chance.
I like either one, to tell you the truth, man. I like either one.
Yeah.
That's good.
Or maybe we could do a dual labeling and release it both ways.
Well, you've got 2 bags of dicks.
I hope that's enough. That ought to be enough dicks for everybody.